Hello, ladies. How are you tonight? Welcome to the show. I was just reading a message on here. Let me see it. It says, Hangouts on Air is going away later this year. I don't know what that means for you, for all these Google Hangouts. I'm going to have to look into that. I hope it's not going away forever or they get something better. This works pretty well, though. So wait until people know that I am on. Now the notification comes up on mine. Sure. I was trying to share it, but the notification wasn't coming up. So make sure you guys can all hear me. Someone leave a comment and let me know. I don't want to start talking if you can't even hear me. I don't quite understand how all these settings work. So I see some of you are on the chat. Let me know. And get rid of this message. There we go. Okay. Good. Now they're all coming in. It's like there's a very long delay or something, and now they're all coming through. Okay. So tonight we are going to talk about friendships or setting boundaries with the opposite sex. And I was going to have Miss Sherry on, but I don't know. When my husband's gone traveling, as many of you know, he was gone last week. And when he's gone for a few days, I feel like I have double on my plate because I have to hold down the fort and plus do a bunch of stuff on his end and cover for him when it comes to different areas. So I did not even talk to Miss Sherry until today about doing it. And next week is going to work out better for both of us. So we're going to do it next week. Probably, I know we've done the topic before, but just kind of hone into some more specific things when it comes to raising teenagers and things. So I wanted to talk about, I had gotten some emails. I was actually like looking through emails and stuff, trying to figure out a topic at like 4 p.m. today. So, hello, Amanda, and hello, everyone that is on. I'm going to kind of keep an eye on, I'm going to try to keep an eye on the chat today as well. So if you have any questions about this or anything, just let me know. I have always, my husband and I have always set boundaries in our lives when it comes to this topic, just being raised the way we were and things. It just kind of carried over. We had boundaries even, you know, being raised in the homes that we were raised in, and it just kind of carried over into our marriage. And so it's not really ever been a big issue in our marriage, but I'm actually like really surprised sometimes when I do see the way that people don't have boundaries in their marriages. And I was actually reading an email today, and this idea just kind of popped in my head. So I figured it would be good for all of us ladies just to kind of go over. And a lot of you are newer. Maybe you never had boundaries in your marriage when it came to the opposite sex, and now you know you're newly saved, or you're trying to make better decisions and live your life better for the Lord. So I thought this would just be good to talk about. So hello, the Braiding Baptist, and Rita and Jen and Amanda, Shara, Mia, trying to get everyone. I saw Jessica was on here earlier, and Amber, 2 Ambers. There's so many Ambers. Catherine. So hello to all of you. So let's get right into it. So I feel like when it comes to this subject, many people are either too lenient when it comes to having boundaries in their marriage, or they go to the opposite extreme where they just like, hello, Ruth, they just don't trust their husband. They're paranoid. They imagine things that aren't there. So we're kind of going to go and kind of explore both, you know, the too lenient and then also the too paranoid. You kind of obviously, it all comes down to balance. You want to have a good balance in your relationship. So the first thing we're going to talk about is just, you know, friendships with the opposite sex. Do you need friendships with the opposite sex? And honestly, I really don't think you do. My husband really fulfills the need in my life for any of the, I don't know, just, you know, my girlfriends actually, you know, my girlfriends pick up the slack a lot. You know, husbands aren't sometimes the greatest at just letting you vent, like we've talked about before. They want to fix things, so they always want to have a solution for everything. And sometimes you just need a really good close friend that you can just, that will understand, you know, your emotions. And, you know, obviously women have a lot more emotional things going on than men do. So when it comes to having a relationship with another man, as far as a friendship even, I really don't see that there's much need for that in a marriage. And with guys too, I mean, from what I've seen, especially even like with my husband, you know, I don't really feel like they don't need to be friends with other women. You know, that's, to me, I don't think that there's that need. You know, I feel like every guy, they need their guy friends, kind of like we need our girlfriends. But I don't see that there's a need for guys to have a woman as a friend. You know, I feel like with guys, they want, when they have a friend that's a girl, when they're single, I feel like it's ultimately leading up to marriage or a deeper relationship. You know, after they're married, then there's really not that need to fill anymore. So, I don't, and I'm not talking about like you can't be cordial, and we'll get into that in a little bit with friendships inside the church and things. I'm talking about, you know, a deep friendship where you're telling them your secrets and you're telling them your dreams and you're telling them your, you know, um, things and stuff that, you know, you just, I don't know. I don't think there's a need for that. Matt said, and I just watched the whole ad without skipping once I got the alert. Just kidding. Keep up the good work. So, but, you know, on the same spectrum, what about friendships with other couples? And I really feel like this is the way to go. Hello, Wendy. This is the way to go when you are married. Is I really think that you can be really close friends with other people as far as couples go. We have many couples that are our friends, and we do things together. You know, we go to their house and we fellowship, and I would consider them my friends. But I would never have, like, if I don't get along with the woman or the wife, I would not have a friendship with the husband. And, you know, does that make sense? And I think as wives, I would have a problem, and my husband was just talking about this in his message last night, but I would have a problem if there was a couple in the church and the wife or the husband had a huge problem with me and my husband was really close with them. That would just be a big problem in our marriage, because if they don't like me, then they shouldn't like him. And if they don't like him, then they shouldn't like me. You know, we're a package deal. So I feel like when it comes to couples, you know, we have many friends that are couples, and we get along great with both the husband and the wife, and that's the way it should be. So I see nothing wrong with having couples as friends. But, and we'll kind of get into the whole communication thing later, but I wouldn't, if I did not like the wife, I would not be friends with the husband. Or if I had a huge problem with the husband, I would have a hard time being close to the wife. And so you gotta watch out for that. You don't want to just be close to, especially if you can't stand the wife, you don't want to be close to the man. So that's a warning flag. You know, in friendships within fellowship of the church, I believe that's fine, because, you know, I'm not going to not talk to someone because they're a man. And, you know, I feel like a fellowship as a body, especially like even in our church, we're all just kind of close to each other. We all sit around and talk after church, or sit around and talk before church. And I carry on conversations with both male and female. And, you know, it's just, we're all friends. That's fine. But I'm talking more about the one-on-one, which we'll get into when it comes to, you know, phone conversations, social media conversations, things like that. So let's talk about social media though. And if you guys ever have if you have any questions or, you know, comments, ideas, your conviction on it, whatever, just throw it in the chat. Hello, Heath. Nice to see you. So let's talk about social media though. Friend requests. My husband and I are both pretty free with our friend requests. We just kind of, I don't know, we don't really care if we're friends with guys or friends with girls. And I've seen some people that have said like it bothers their husband if a guy like friend requests them but doesn't friend request the husband. I've never really even noticed that. So with us, it's just not really a big deal. My husband has a lot of women that follow him that are friends, but social media for us, it's more of like an outreach. But it's not necessarily something that someplace where you have like really close relationships with people. You know, we are closer to the ones we know in real life, obviously, or that we've met in real life. But I have so many friends that follow me. I don't even know who they are. And that's no offense to anyone. There's too many. There's like 500 or 600 or something. I don't know. I remember the ones I meet in real life for the most part. But then some women I have met in real life and they're on my Facebook friends and I didn't even realize it. And then it takes a couple of times of me seeing them for it to like really click. So that's not really a big deal with us. How about private messaging though? For private messaging, I will private message with men. I know some women don't like that. You know, obviously, most of the time it's just to do with if they have a question or I don't know. It's not really, I'm trying to think of how to describe it. I don't know. This is the thing with me and my husband. Both of our phones are completely open for each other at all times. In fact, my phone is pretty much an open book for my whole family because my kids all know my password on it. And then also at home on the computer, a lot of times when I'm doing my Gently Led Sisters, I'll have everything open. So I'll have my Facebook open, all my messaging will be open, and my kids get on the computer all the time. So everything's just right there, wide open. I never write anything in a private message that I would not say in real life. The same thing goes with me writing anything on social media. I've said that before. So I would never, that's a good rule of thumb. You never want to write a private message to someone that you feel like you have the need to delete. When you are going into that territory, you're on dangerous ground. So I would be very, very careful. And if you feel like you could potentially mess up when it comes to private messaging, people of the opposite sex, just get rid of it. Don't even have it. If you feel like that's an area of weakness for you, if you feel like something's getting a little too close with someone, and maybe you're heading into more than friendship territory, you need to block that person. You need to get off because your marriage is number one. So let me see some of the comments. I don't like any woman calling my husband. I even told my own sister to stop calling my husband. And that comes down to what you're comfortable with. Obviously, women have to call my husband sometimes because he's a pastor. That just happens. But I know my husband and I know how he is on the phone. And I know he hates even talking on the phone. So it doesn't even bother me. Jessica said, my husband won't accept friend requests from married women unless he is friends with their husband on there. That's nice of your husband. If that's, set the standard in your own life and just stick with it. So Alicia said, I have the same views. My sister recently died, leaving behind a 5-year-old daughter and husband. I want to be there for my niece, but also be mindful not to co-parent with my brother-in-law. One thing that you can do, Alicia, and I was going to get into this a little bit later, is if you do have to text your brother-in-law, I don't know if you're married or not, but if you are married, you could always just send a group text. I love group texting because you're just accountable to everyone. It's like a group conversation. So that is one thing to keep in mind. Group emails, which we'll be going into later. But Mia said, why would a married guy or guy in general be asking you advice in a private message? Not advice per se. Maybe too specific, but I thought this is what you just addressed. Why wouldn't he message your husband? Yeah, a lot of times they do message my husband. Not many even. Some have private messaged me, like asking if my son can do a video, like put together a video for them, things like that. Some will, if they can't get a hold of my husband, and they have a question that they need to ask me. But yeah, there's been some, I don't know. It's very random. I'm looking like through them now. Some that are using their husband's accounts. Some women will text me through them. But yeah, I mean, all my private messages are completely open. So like I said, for me, in fact, I've sometimes, if they're trying to get a hold of my husband will be sitting right there, and I'll be like, this person's private messaging me, and I'll show them. They want to know if you blah, 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 whatever. So he knows whenever someone does private message me, but that's just something that you're going to have to decide as a married couple, what is acceptable in your marriage and what's not. For me and my husband, we have a very high level of trust with each other. Nothing has ever happened that would ever throw any suspicion or doubt in there. And we're completely open with each other when it comes. Like I said, I can get on his phone all the time. He can get on my phone at any time and see my Facebook is always open for even the kids to see or anything. So yeah, not necessarily advice. Just a lot of times are questions, like I said, questions about something that's going on. They can't get a hold of my husband, or they want my son to do a video, stuff like that. So Hope said, I grew up around people who would sleep over at the opposite sex house, even if they had a boyfriend, girlfriend, so I can be protective, but my husband doesn't add single women except a few I'm close to as well. So she said, I've had guys PM me even in the movement about personal stuff, and my husband didn't like. That's kind of weird. Yeah. I've never had anyone PM me about personal stuff. It is best guy to guy, especially with personal matters, marriage, etc. I try to stay out of that. And then the Braden Baptist said, the only men who private messaged me were young single guys who were interested in finding a wife. That was before my relationship was public knowledge, and now I never get those anymore. And then Jenny said, Facebook gives people a lot of excuses to be friends with people they've known in the past for no good reason. I have deleted anyone I do not have a need to be friends with. Yeah. There's a lot of comments coming in. You guys have a lot of good things. Mrs. Cervantes Love said, with my husband gone, I've had to keep firm boundaries with any men just because I don't want to even appear to be doing something wrong. And we are going to be talking about the appearance of evil in a little bit. My husband's confidence comes first. And you're exactly right. Because it is tough, especially when you are separated. You have to be really, really above reproach when it comes to something. When you are, facing a long separation like that, you have to be really careful. So, and then Amber said, I think a lot of times men don't even realize a woman is flirting, but a woman knows exactly what she's doing. And yeah, we're going to talk about flirting in a little bit too, from other women and things. And, men are kind of clueless sometimes, especially if they're a happily married man. We've been places before, and us women, we pick up on vibes, and we've been places before, and like at a restaurant or something, and my husband will come back to the table, or a waitress will have been there, and she'll leave, and I'll look at him and say, she was totally flirting with you. And he's like, no, and yes, she was flirting with you. I can tell. And we'll just kind of laugh it off. It's not something that really bothers me. I'm pretty secure in our relationship. So, and when you do have a secure relationship, and there's never been a need to be suspicious of anything or anything's ever happened, then you can laugh about things like that sometimes. So, but let's see, interaction online. So, my policy is, like I said, I never say anything to a man on a social media post, anything that I would not say with my husband right there, or anything I would be ashamed of him seeing. Just always remember that. And if you are feeling like you're getting a little too close to someone else that you're not married to, then you need to back off, or just block him, delete. It's not nothing on Facebook is worth losing trust over, or losing your marriage, or causing marriage problems. So when it comes to the telephone, what about calls, texting, and emailing? So phone calls, does anyone even call anymore? Barely anyone calls me. It's literally like the dentist and spam phone calls. Sometimes my mom calls me, very rarely, and my husband, and that's about it. Not many people I don't even know if this is an issue. I would think it would be like more texting or emailing. That's kind of the more go-to thing. With texting, they have a nice little thing called group texting, and it works out very well. so that you can, if you ever need to, anytime that I've had to text someone in the church, my husband's like, you need to text this person for me, tell them, blah, 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 blah. I try to do it in two or more people on the same text. And that way they can, they'll see that we're all talking together or whatever. So 2 or more people in a group text, and that just holds you accountable. And I've never had to text people of the opposite sex very often, but even if you have, maybe you have to text someone of the opposite sex, just one person, you can put your husband in that group text as well. So you can just put both of them, your husband and the other person. And the same goes for emailing. You can email, if I have to email a man, then I can email it to my husband and that man. And it works just really well. It's an accountability thing, so that if anyone ever has any questions or suspicions, you can show them that you emailed multiple people about it. So, so yeah, calls, texting, emailing, they have the wonderful thing called group texting, group call. They do have group calls, but like I said, I don't even know if phone calls are even an issue. But obviously, this is just common sense. If you're calling a guy and talking to him for long periods of time, big red flag. So obviously, sometimes there's emergencies and you have to call someone. You have to let them know that there's an emergency and there's no way around it. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about anything over a friendship. You need to set boundaries in your life, and that's why I like the group texting, I like the group emailing. As far as social media, you have to establish the boundaries you and your husband want. If your husband's more comfortable with you not having guys as your friends, then just don't have guys as your friends. It's not worth fighting over. It's not worth, having that suspicion there. If your husband is fine with you, then, then be fine with it. But I would highly encourage anyone to, have just an open line when it comes to your phones. If your husband has to constantly have his phone on him and he freaks out and panics if you pick up his phone and you his password and you're looking at stuff and he's panicking, that's a big red flag. So, just always have easy access. Keep an open line. Let your husband know he can get on your phone whenever he wants. And it's the same way with my teenagers. My one teenager, only one has a phone. But I've told him, I can get on your phone at any time and look at your messages. And I do sometimes. I don't keep up with it as much as I need to. But I get on there and I'll look at his phone calls, at his phone log, at his messages. And obviously, they can delete things if they're sneaky. But I try to do it when he's least expecting. And I'm not saying I do it with my husband because I don't get on there and spy, but he doesn't even have a password on his phone. So it's laying out all the time when he's at home, and he's not worried if I happen to get on it or someone calls and I see who it is or whatever. So if your husband or you are being very, very protective of your phone and you don't want anyone getting on there without the password, no one knows the password but you, and you don't want him looking on your phone, that's some big red flags. So do you think sharing a phone with your spouse is a good idea? If you have fallen in the past, I do. If you struggle in this area, then yes, you need accountability. If you have, you or your spouse has had problems with maybe contacting other women and taking it further than it needs to be, then yes, I would definitely have an open line of accountability for that. And if that means sharing a phone, that means sharing a phone. It's going to be harder because we're all so used to having our own phones and, being in contact with everyone all the time. But if it keeps you from falling or keeps him from falling, then definitely yes. So, let's see what some of the comments say. So, husband always comes before a best guy friend. I don't think there's even an innocent girl and guy best friend relationship. It always ends badly. It does. Now, when I was growing up, I actually got along better with boys than I did girls for the most part, because girls, their drama just annoyed me. And I've never been an emotional person. I've never been a drama queen. So girls just got on my nerves, especially as a teenager. And I just felt like I could talk better with guys. And so I honestly can say when I was growing up, I did have some guys that were friends where there was nothing romantic, nothing like that at all. And they were just truly my friend. But after you get older and you get married, you don't have that, you don't have that need, I don't think. And I have best friends that are girls, and they kind of fill that friendship need. I don't have a void, and I don't need another guy that's a friend, because my husband is my best friend. So yeah, Avery said she felt that way too. Girls annoyed me. I don't know. Sometimes girls still annoy me. I'm just like, stop being so emotional. Drives me nuts. Sorry. I don't like girl drama at all. lots of you agree with me. So that covers that. So what about interaction outside of church? Okay, because a lot of this stuff, obviously, most of the time when I see people of the opposite sex on a close friendship basis, it's in the church. So obviously, don't even be alone in a church. I don't know. There's not many places in my church that you could go to be alone, but that would be stupid. Don't ever go alone when you're in the church. But when you're outside of the church, I've actually known of some like married people that met other people that weren't their spouses for lunch. I'm thinking that is weird. Don't ever meet someone of the opposite sex just for lunch for you two. That's going into dangerous territory. So outside of church, definitely never be alone, obviously, and that would be like eating out. If you really want to eat out with that person, then the couples need to do it. We've gone on couples dates many, many times, and that's always fun. There's never a need for you to be alone with someone of the opposite sex after you're married. There just really isn't. There's, if you have to go out, even if you're in the business world, you can bring a girlfriend with, or bring your spouse with. Both you bring spouses, and it's just, there's no need to ever be alone. So agree on your boundaries. Interaction outside of church, agree on different boundaries. Like for me, for my husband and I, since he is a pastor, he has had to do counseling before. So one of the boundaries that we have set is he does not counsel women alone. Okay. And he has made that very clear. Also, he's not in church. He's here a lot by himself. So he will not be here alone and we've talked about this in previous episodes, but he will not be here alone when another woman is here as well. It's just a boundary he set. And he's actually had to tell women that you can't come over when I am here alone. And we have most of the ladies respect that. They know, they'll ask, is pastor going to be there? And if he is, then they'll bring their kids. Or, there's always some accountability that way. He will not ever be in a vehicle alone with a woman. He either has to have our kids, have me with him. Part of it is avoiding the appearance of evil. And if people in town are seeing him drive around with some woman that's not his wife, that's going to be weird, first of all, because people that do know us in town know that we're married. So that's going to send up red flags to them. Like, why is Pastor Tommy driving around town with someone that's not his wife? So I would encourage, like Mrs. Cervantes said, I would encourage all pastors to do this. You have to have boundaries. Another thing is in churches is having glass doors. Having ways to look in. This keeps him accountable, even as far as like things he's on his computer a lot when he's at the church studying. So if he has an open door, then people are, he's not going to be in here looking at anything he shouldn't. And there's been pastors that have been caught with horrible stuff on their computer. So, having that extra layer of protection will protect the pastor from, even being tempted, because people can see in his office, things like that. We actually haven't even gotten a glass door yet, but he wants to here. He wants to have glass doors in because we do have some rooms around the church. And sometimes things happen at church when perverts come in and you don't know they're perverts. So he wants to just keep everyone accountable and try to lessen the chances of that happening. So, you know, glass into every room, obviously, unless it's the bathroom or something. So, no meetups with anyone of the opposite sex. We've had times when someone did need counseling and I just had to go with them. And I had to sit in the counseling session. And you think that's really weird because, I mean, what's going to happen? It's just counseling, but you never know. You know, sometimes with counseling sessions, they can get kind of personal. And there does not need to be another lady in the world other than me telling him personal things like that. So usually if there is a situation, then he will counsel the couple and I will also be in there if I need to be. But that's just a way of protecting himself. So, and you know, even with accusations that abound, I mean, people with the, you know, the hashtag Me Too thing, I'm not saying that's all bad, but people can make accusations now and you could be crucified in the court of public opinion. We've seen that happen many times. The news media does not get things right. The lies abound. And many times before the truth is even out there, someone just has to make an accusation and that can destroy your reputation. It can destroy your credibility. So you have to be really careful even about accusations. So in today's day and world, that, you know, just having boundaries and things covers you in case of a false accusation. Hello, Stacy McComas. And I wasn't even looking at the chat, but Jessica said it will also help with people trying to accuse him of stuff. Yep, what I just said. You can't be too careful. I'm finding that out for sure. I mean, it's just crazy. It's crazy what goes on in today's world. And this month has just been sickening to me with everything that's gone on, with just how far our nation has come down the path of perdition. So, okay. So obviously no meetups, you know, never be alone with someone of the opposite sex as far as you can help it. Obviously, I'm not talking about emergency type situations. I'm just talking about day-to-day things. So Tamara said, once there was no lady available, so an usher was in pastor's office with us. I was crying. It's hilarious when I think back on why I was upset. Well, good for your pastor, though, for having an usher in there with you. That's what I'm talking about. That's a good man. That's a good man that will protect himself and protect his wife and protect his reputation when he has those boundaries in his life. And I really do think it's great for every pastor that, because there have been many pastors that haven't, and they have either one, fallen or been accused of things that, you know, who knows what happens. So Joanne said, we have cameras set up throughout the church building except bathrooms and mother baby rooms. It's nice to be able to look back if needed. That's a good idea. That's a really good idea, have cameras. We don't have cameras. We probably should. But that is a good idea where you can look back. And that way, too, if there is an accusation, you'll be able to tell once you look back on those cameras and things. So, but let's go on to what to do if someone is flirting with your spouse. Okay. Someone specifically asked me about this. So, first off, I really feel like most of this lies on your husband. Okay. Because, except guys are kind of clueless sometimes, but tell your husband if it bothers you. Sometimes I've had to tell my husband, you need to watch it around so-and-so. And he's like, what? I'm like, no, you need to watch it around so-and-so. No one at my church right now, ladies, don't be worried. I've never told my husband to be careful around any of you. No. But in the past, at our old church, in the past here, I have had to tell him, I can tell there's something there. Because when you're married to a pastor, this is just the truth of it. You're married, and I'm married, and a lot of the friends that I have are married to very strong leaders. And women really like people in authority positions. They like men in uniform, right? Like soldiers, police, men in uniform. It's just authority thing. And so pastors are in a place of authority and they're strong leaders. And so sometimes women are drawn to that, especially if they're married to someone that's not a strong leader. So I've noticed with the ones that I've been like, you gotta watch it. It's like they're like that. They're drawn to that. So for me, when I've told him that before, he's just kind of very standoffish, and usually that's about all it takes. It's never even gotten further than that. So I think if you just tell your husband, listen, that lady, she's looking at you kind of, I don't know, I'm picking up some vibes. He should take the initiative to just kind of steer clear of her. Okay. Stay away from her. If he respects you and he respects your opinion, that should be enough. Women, unless they're just completely stupid, they're going to pick up on that. So, they can pick up on social cues. If it comes down to it though, and she's like actually aggressively pursuing him, then I would definitely talk to her and say, listen, you need to back off a little. I don't know if you mean to be this way, but it's really coming across this way. And, you don't want to give the wrong impression. Try to be nice. Try to be like, you want to be careful. You don't want to give the wrong impression. So I'm just letting you know. Jessica said there's actually a book out there on how to seduce a pastor. It's so sad that it's even out there. And Joe said women should get it into their heads that married men are off limits. Exactly. You would think, the ring, hello, done deal. But for positions of authority, it's women are really drawn to that sometimes. So, and Avery said, I have known some guys that can lead a woman on without realizing it. They think they are just being friendly. And I get that because, my husband is like super friendly to everyone. And he's kind of clueless sometimes. I think most men are because they're not looking, the good men, they're not looking for, a relationship with another woman. And they just think some women are being friendly or whatever. And so they're just kind of clueless to it. As wives, we can pick up on that, better than our men sometimes because we know women so well. But yeah, women should, if any women are listening to this, yeah, my husband's off limits. And any married man is off limits. Off limits, done deal. Ring, done. Don't even think about it. So Jeannie said, was in the military, and when we pulled into port, rings would disappear off fingers. Majority of people. That's disgusting to me. I don't like that. And some women don't just care. You're right. And I don't know. Maybe I've just been around pretty decent people my whole life, but I've never had one. I've never seen it where it advanced further than just being very standoffish with them and steering clear of them. I've never seen it where we've had to talk to anyone about it or anything. So yeah, I don't know. That's probably, it might just come down to you talking to her. And if she's just like relentless, then obviously that needs to be dealt with because that shouldn't even be going on in the church. Fornication, adultery should not be going on in the church at all. So if she's just really trying to play the whore, then, that shouldn't be going on in the church at all. So Michael Scott asked, what about married couples in the church who don't wear wedding rings? What do you mean? What about them? Like, how do you know people are married, or should you take offense at that if they don't wear wedding rings? I've known some people that they can't wear wedding rings because of their line of work. Okay. A ring, it's not like this sacred object that you just absolutely have to wear. You're married with or without it. It's just, I like my husband wearing his, and he's told the story before because it shows that he is taken. So I like that. Now, if they're not wearing it because they don't want people to know they're married, then you might have a problem there. That's obviously showing that. But some men can't because of their job situation. Obviously, I like mine too. And I think most women, we like our husbands to wear the rings to show that they're taken. So that's definitely a personal preference. And obviously something might be in the works if he's totally refusing to. So that's something you would have to talk to him about. So Kelly said, my husband was a military officer and would get scheduled with just a female enlisted during inspections when they needed the office man 24 hours. I would camp out with the baby during those shifts. I would too. I would not like that. That would make me very uncomfortable if my husband was alone with someone. Obviously, in a working environment, there's not much you can do about it, especially if he's ordered to do that. You do have to have a high level of trust in those situations. So, but that's not an ideal situation for any man to have to be in. And that's another thing. You know, they are under a tremendous amount of stress, especially if they are put into a situation where they have to work with other women. So you need to do your best to keep the fires burning at home when he's in that situation. You know, don't be a nag, and don't make the house a home a miserable place to be. You know, be welcoming to him and make him want to come home to you, and don't be a shrew and things like that. So Michael said, I've seen a couple guys wearing those silicone rings. Yeah, I like those. Those are like very popular now, and you can wear them a lot of. If my husband's in it, he hates the way they look, so he just has a gold wedding band. But you know, it's better than nothing. So Amber said, I bought my husband a silicone ring so he can wear it at work. He was actually relieved to be able to wear one. Yeah, that's nice if you can do it. And then even if you have to wear the junky silicone one to work, but then you could put on the nice gold one, you know, just for when you're out and about any other time. So Dorothy said, I remember working at a fast food restaurant and all the managers were having affairs with the employees, and one propositioned me. That's disturbing. The lack of fidelity nowadays is amazing. And that's why you do have to have certain boundaries in your life. And especially if you both have a past and you've struggled in the area maybe of fornication, you really have to place some boundaries in your life, just, you know, just to keep you safe and to keep your husband safe. So Amber said, my hand swelled so badly during my pregnancies and I could not wear my ring. That's what this is. So I bought a temporary replacement swollen mommy ring. I got my ring on the other day, my really nice gold ring. I got it on the other day and I almost couldn't get it off. I started panicking. I had to like put Windex on my finger to get it off. My fingers, I got so swollen with this last pregnancy. It was the worst it's ever been. So this is taking the longest it's ever been for my fingers to get down. But this is like my fate. I call them my fat rings. So yeah, I get some fat rings if you have. I think they're like from Avon or something. I don't know. Okay, so and the Braiding Baptist said that's another downside of women being in the workplace. Both physical and emotional adultery are often rampant. That is true. So my husband has always worked physical jobs, so there's not even very many women there. And obviously, I just don't really work, so I don't deal with that. I'm home with the kids almost all the time. My only interaction with men of the opposite sex, with people of the opposite sex, which are men, is at church. So that's really the only place that I do. But, and you know, maybe it's easy for me because I am a stay-at-home mom. Maybe it's easier for me to say that. Like, yeah, it's so easy. Why are you wondering me tempted? Because I don't work around men at all. And maybe it's easier for my husband because he does work super physical and he's only worked super physical jobs. And the women there are very few and far in between. And he's too busy. Anyways, it would definitely be harder for someone in a business type setting or an office setting. You're going to have to be extra vigilant and extra careful in those situations. So, especially if you do stay home all day and your husband is in the business world, you're definitely going to have to be careful about that. So, but yeah, tell your husband if it bothers you. Obviously, she should be able to pick up on social cues. Talk to lady if it comes down to that. Your husband's going to be the main one to shut things down. Okay, you shouldn't need to. I would only, and in fact, if she doesn't pick up on the social cues and then you have to talk to her, chances are it's going to get ugly. She's going to get very offended. What, me? I wasn't doing that. You know, how dare you say that about me, when it was very obvious what she was trying to do. So it will get ugly if it ever comes to that point. So he should be able to shut her down. Just, you know, find every excuse if she comes up to him to try to talk to him for him to just get out of there and go talk to someone else. Maybe if she comes around a lot, just stand there, you know, with your arm through your husband's. And if she comes to talk to him, she has to talk to you. So, hello, Kimmy and Melissa. I have not seen you very much. Hello, Melissa. I don't recognize that name. But I want to say on the flip side of things, don't be paranoid. Okay, I have seen some women where, or even the guys, it's like they have over heightened senses and they think that if a woman looks at them and says hi, that's flirting. Okay, if that's the case, then I flirt with a lot of people because I'm very friendly with everyone in our church. I'm very friendly with them and I'll shake their hands. It was so funny when we first started coming to my church when I was 17. It was an IFB church, and I remember we always had handshaking time, and I would shake the teenage boys' hands. And all the other teenage girls that were at that church when I started coming were just aghast. They were like, oh, Cassandra, I can't believe you're shaking. Like, they thought it was like the sin to shake the boys' hand. And I'm like, guys, it's just a handshake. It's not like you're holding hands with them. And I think by the time I was a little bit older, they were finally shaking hands with guys. But it was so funny because I was like 17 and I'm like, guys, this is ridiculous. And I always had very high standards when it came to that in my own life. But I'm like, really, a handshake? A handshake is a handshake. It's not sinful or anything. So I always thought that was a funny story. But but yeah, just don't be paranoid. Be secure in your marriage, okay? Don't imagine things if they aren't there. Like I said, even some men sometimes I feel like my husband's usually clueless when it comes to it, but some men are like, oh yeah, she was flirting with me. And maybe she wasn't. You know, maybe he was just imagining things. So if a woman's having a conversation with your husband, it doesn't mean that she's flirting. You know the signs, you know the playing with the hair and playing with the face and, you know, different little signs that us women do and that you did with your husband when you were flirting with him before you got married. So don't imagine things that aren't there. Kelly asked, oh, what about house workers coming over? I personally do not care. Just had an electrician over to the Airbnb without my husband here. I don't care when they do, just because I always have my kids with. So I've had, you know, the plumber be there for hours. I've had guys working in my washer and dryer. I always have kids around. So for me, it's a non-issue. If I wanted to start an affair with a plumber, it'd be kind of hard. So it's just a non-issue. Yes, friendly, not flirty. I am very friendly. There's a difference. If you are trying to monopolize, if someone is trying to monopolize, I can't even say that word, my goodness. If someone is trying to monopolize, still doesn't sound right, your husband's time all the time, then that is obviously a warning flag. If someone, you know, a lot of women have questions, biblical questions. Maybe they've asked their husband at home and he doesn't know. So he's like, ask pastor when we see him. So they'll be asking him biblical questions, and you know, that's not flirting at all. That's just carrying on a conversation. So husbands like secure wives. They don't like insecure wives. Okay, they really like it when you are secure in your love, when you're not constantly questioning their every move. I realize that if your husband has fallen in the past and you are working on rebuilding your relationship, obviously there's going to be an amount of distrust there. And what I would say to that is just be extra careful about the accountability. He needs to be accountable to maybe a pastor or a spiritual leader in his life, and he needs to be accountable to you. And I say this like, you know, he's the one that messed up, but in some marriages, it's the wife that's messed up. So in that case, you need to have someone that you're accountable to, a very, very close friend. You need to have open line to your phone to your husband so that, you know, I'm not necessarily saying that you guys need to check. Maybe you do. I don't know, depending on what happened in the past. But Maybe you need to check each other's phones and you say, I'm an adult, you know, that's ridiculous, whatever. But the thing is, if you really want to have a good marriage, and if one of you have fallen in the past, that's going to take a long time to rebuild that. And I don't care how long you've been married, after the indiscretion happens, you're always going to have that in the back of your mind. And so if you know that there's an open line to his phone and he knows there is to your phone, that's going to cut down pretty much on any possibility of having a secret relationship. So I would just, that's the main thing. I really have a problem with spouses that are very secretive about their phones, and they are very careful about being password protected. Their computers, their accounts. I mean, I can get on even to my husband's email accounts. I know his passwords. He could get onto my email accounts. It's just always been open line with us. So accountability does not just go away at 18 or the altar. Absolutely not. In fact, I feel like there's almost more after you're married, you know, because you are out from under your parents, obviously, and you are adults, and there is a lot more freedom per se. And so it is you consciously making that decision to remain faithful to that person. And the thing about being faithful in your marriage is when you do those vows, till death do us part, if you mess up one time, you're no longer faithful. And I know you can go on to be faithful from that point, but the fact is, if you mess up one time, you can no longer say, I've been faithful. I've been a faithful spouse. You messed up. You're no longer faithful. You're now an unfaithful spouse. And my goal, and I know my husband's goal, is that we go to the grave being faithful 100% to each other. I am 100% faithful to him. He's 100% faithful to me. And the world can scoff all they want at that, but they really do not understand the freedom that comes in being secure with your love to each other and being secure in your relationship, and knowing that you don't have to be suspicious and, you know, because of past indiscretions. I mean, we were each other's first, and I want to be each other's onlys for our entire life until we both die. So Avery said, I once heard a counselor say, God said your body belongs to your spouse, and you think your phone doesn't. Exactly. So, you know, the phone, I feel like the phone and the internet and the computer are like the biggest stumbling blocks. And I've heard a lot, everyone, you know, people are saying Facebook things. I have heard a lot of Facebook stories where people reconnected with people in their past, and it made them go into an affair. And that's something you need to be aware of, and you need to always be careful about. Like I said, if you're spending more time talking to someone on Facebook than other people, I would be very, very, very cautious with that. So Amber said, even my children know my husband and I don't have secrets. Like when they say, please don't tell daddy, my response is, well, we don't keep secrets, so I will discuss it with him. Yep, it's a package deal. You get both. I tell everything to my husband. A lot of times if I have maybe something that hasn't been disclosed to the public as far as just information, I know the only other person that's going to know is going to be my husband, because I pretty much tell him anything. So Kimmy said, a lot of women are on the hunt for their exes on Facebook. That's bad. Yeah, don't be on the hunt for your ex on Facebook. Not good. Facebook is so deceiving, and you know, you have to make the best of your life, because it's not every pasture is greener. The grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, and you are not going to be happy if you end up divorcing your husband and going for that other guy. You're going to have the same problems. We are humans. We all have the same problems. So you just need to learn to work through them. You are in the best situation. You are married to the man that God wants you to be married to, and you need to make it work. So if you have been divorced in the past and remarried, you are now married to the person that God wants you to stay married to. So you need to make it work. Don't even, if you have a temptation to, even if you have an ex-boyfriend in your past that you get curious about, and you even have a temptation to search his name, don't do it if you know it's going to cause you problems. So definitely take heed on Facebook. And Mrs. Cervantes said, I just block the exes. There you go. Block them, and then you never have to worry about it. If you even start getting curious and you start looking them up, then maybe it could lead to one thought, which could lead to another thought. You know, we act on what we think about. So the battle starts in the mind, first of all. And I always know when things are going on in my life because I start dreaming about them. And even if I don't think I've been thinking about them, obviously I have, because I start having reoccurring dreams. I'm going through that right now. I keep having reoccurring dreams about something. And I know that it's something that needs to be resolved in my life. So I usually try to just resolve it so I can move on and stop, like, get out of the loop of the reoccurring dream. So be very careful on Facebook. And then, so, you know, always avoid the appearance of evil. Trust your gut. I've had instances where I've just had a really bad feeling come over me with something, with things in the past. So I usually try to heed that, because God does place that in us for a reason. We have gut instincts, and, you know, policemen rely on gut instincts. It's something that God, he put that warning instinct in us for a reason. So if it feels, you know, when in doubt, just don't do it. Okay. So just don't do it. Ricky said, I don't have a Facebook. When me and my ex-fiance were still together, I decided to look her up on Facebook and was shocked to find out she was in a whole other relationship. Oh my goodness. Now, no longer my fiance. I would hope not. At least you found it out before. Imagine if you married her, and that would be bad. So Kelly said, my ex from 9th grade sent me a friend request last year. I immediately blocked. I mean, did he not see the 8 kids in my background photo? That's very true. So yes, trust your gut. When in doubt, don't do it. If you even have an inkling of something, just don't do it. Just say, back off. Just don't do it. And then remember that your husband is the closest. He is the closest person to you as far as men go. You should not need any other male relationships. I mean, he, you know, as far as mine goes, he does. And I'm not even saying like my husband is like the world's, you know, 100% perfect man. We all are not perfect. But once again, you make work what you have. You know, you said I do to that man. Yeah, most men are not romantic at all. Most men need to just be told what to do for romance. So that kind of spoils it, at least for mine. If I want something romantic done, I got to tell him. So, you know, you work with what you have. The grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. Men are all the same. Most women are all the same. So, you know, for me, he is my ally. He is my friend. He is the one I tell everything to. And I don't need that when it comes to other men. You know, I am nice to all men. I'm friendly to all men. I like I like talking to men. I like talking about doctrine and biblical stuff. So, well, thank you, Freya. Freya loves my earrings, she said. I love talking about doctrine and biblical stuff. So sometimes I would just prefer, even now, to be around the men listening to what they're talking about, because they're talking about interesting things to me. You know, sometimes I'd rather listen about biblical things than cooking or cleaning or, you know, whatever. I have an interest when it comes to doctrine. So, you know, I love talking. I love talking about doctrine. Most women don't like doctrine. So, I mean, I've tried talking doctrine now, not so much in some of my friends now, but I've tried talking doctrine before to people and like throwing out of the scripture, and it's like a blank wall. Like, what are you talking about? So I find that more men seem to be interested in doctrine than women. So, you know, I like talking with men about things like that. But when it comes to like a deep, personal, telling them my dreams and my fears and blah, 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 I'm not going to go to another man for that. So just remember that, you know, you need to have one person in your life for things like that, and that's your husband. So, and then the Braiding Baptist said, A guy I know was in a similar situation. They canceled the wedding and the girl married another guy within a month or two. Wow, that's really fast. And then Darling Day said, that's true. You have to communicate with them. My husband is always clueless about romantic things. I think that's a guy thing. I don't know. My husband's so busy, though. I think most men are. They're so busy providing for us. Romance is kind of like the last thing on their minds. So, and then Jessica said, you still need to send me that picture of your swim dress. Who are you talking to? Not me, I don't think. Oh, at Kirsten. I'm like, that's not me. Okay, so we are going to do a giveaway. So if you guys have any other questions, anything like that, we had a lot of people watching tonight. It's 80. That's good. Okay, so do you have any other questions or anything? Good. See, I knew a lot of you ladies would like talking about doctrine. I've always been, back when I was like really active on Twitter, I'm not so much anymore, but back when I was really active, I would go head to head with men on there, actually. Sometimes about doctrinal things, dispensationalists, things like that. And it was fun. I really got a thrill out of it. I just don't have as much time anymore. So I'm barely ever on Twitter, but it's always fun too, especially when they'd be surprised that I actually knew pretty much what I was talking about. Now, sometimes I would go to my husband and be like, hey, what do you think about this? And then he'd be like, say this. So I would like say it. And then I'd look really smart because it was what he told me to say. But whose suit jacket is that in the back? That is my husband's. I'm in my husband's office at the church. He has them hung there. He pretty much like leaves his suits here. Funny fact, he would just like throw them over the couch or the heater, and one of the ladies in the church bought him that for him to hang up his suits. And she's just kind of, she like sees a need and she tries buying it, and she does the same with us. Like I can't even tell her I need anything because she'll go and buy it for me. So it's a good idea because, oh, and this is his too. There, yeah, he just keeps all of his suits here. So Kirsten said, I always want to go over with my husband and the man and talk about doctrine. I love talking about doctrine. My husband says he always wants to come with me and the ladies to talk about babies. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, it was the perfect gift for him. I like talking about babies. Obviously, every woman loves talking about babies, but doctrine is very interesting to me. So if there's no other questions, I am going to give away a couple more shirts, but I want to specify that I think I only, last week I had to send Jocelyn, and you should have gotten it today. Hopefully she did. I had to send her a gray shirt. I only have one more gray one in a small. And then I have black ones that I think large and up. I think I'm out of smalls, and I think I might be out of mediums as well. So large, extra large. And we actually need someone that's a little bigger to win, because I have a few 3Xs, 2Xs, I think. So I need to get rid of those. Okay. I'm talking about, Shara, I'm talking about the first edition ones. If you want a shirt, yes, please go. Remember, the whole month of June, you get a discount, like 25% off. So go to Stephen B. Lettering and buy the Gently Led sister shirt, the new design, very nice, and some other things are on there. Hello from the Philippines. So, but I'm talking about the first edition shirts right now, and we're doing a giveaway for those. I gotta think of a question though. How am I gonna do this? I need someone to give me a number. And I don't know. What can I do? Maybe I can ask a question. I'm trying to think. Trying to think of something I talked about. Okay. Yes, 25% off, $20 order all month. So we need someone to win. You already have the old one? Okay. Ask a doctrine question. What's a doctrine question? Now I'm going to go blank though if I'm put on the spot. I'm going to totally go blank. Okay. I could ask something about, see, a lot of them I'm like thinking, Well, this one would be too easy. Like all the ones I'm thinking are like super, super too easy for all of you. You would all be like, oh, that's so easy. Where do we believe, let me look it up just to make sure I'm right. Where do we believe what you have to be, what you have to do to be saved? That's a little too easy. Okay. What was Moses's mother's name? But you already know that if you're asking it. What was Moses's mother's name? Okay. So what is the chapter? Where do we believe? Okay, where do I believe? Maybe I don't know this. What chapter in Revelation do we believe that the rapture occurs? Sometimes can you do a video? You won't answer? Sometimes can you do a video how you do your hair? There it is. Someone got it. Chapter 6. Bing, bing, bing. Catherine won. Catherine, I hope you're not a small. So yeah, chapter 6, because it says, verse 14, and the heaven departed as a scroll and is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. And then verse 17, for the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? And actually, like, that's like the beginning part of the rapture, like when it's happening. But, you know, chapter 7 too, I guess, because after chapter 7 is when they like, the four angels are standing on the four corners of the earth or whatever. But yeah, chapter 6. Okay, so Catherine. So one more. Let's do one more. Stacy, let me answer your question. I've actually done a tutorial on how to do this. It is the messy bun tutorial. And I'm really not nicely put together. It literally takes me 10 minutes to do my makeup in the morning. And I've been like this since like 7 this morning. So, all right. So let's do... Everyone knew the rapture. That was very true. No, I do not believe it happens in chapter 13. I do not. We believe it happens in chapter 6, the end of chapter 6. Let's see. What was Queen Esther's official name? Queen Esther's official name. Anyone know? What was her Hebrew name? I love this name, by the way. Stephen Boffman said, I want to win one for my daughters. Well, they would be like, yep, bing, bing, bing. Kirsten got it. Not spelled right, but kind of. Hadassah or Majesty. Kirsten, you got it. It's not spelled right. Yep, Kimmy just got it. Kimmy got the right spelling. Hadassah. Yeah, but I knew what you were trying to say, so I'll give it to you. Yeah, it was Hadassah. You were going so fast. You were like trying to do it. Yeah, it's Hadassah. My favorite story in the entire Bible is the story of Esther. I love it. I love that whole book. I love that she was nervous and afraid because it reminds me so much of myself. Sometimes how, you know, you are afraid and you are nervous, but in the end, she had the courage. She said she lived for such a time as this. She was put there for such a time as this. I just love that phrase. So yes, Hadassah is a beautiful name. And my best friend actually has a little girl named that. So, okay. So Kirsten but Kirsten, you're like a small. So you might, sorry. I needed someone that was like in an extra large or above to win. And then I don't know who was the other one. Okay. So you two, just email me at gentlyledsisters.com. Gmail. What am I saying? I always say .com. I always have to think about it. gentlyledsisters@gmail.com, and I will send them out. I usually send them out on Friday, and the people are supposed to get them the next Monday or Tuesday. Friday is kind of my errand day. So just email me your address, and Kirsten, I might already have yours actually, but I will send them out this week. So hopefully you guys got something from this, and you're a medium. I'll look, Kirsten. I'll see if, yeah, you could use it as a nightgown. Or if you ever get pregnant again, you know, maybe you'll need a bigger. No, I'll look and I'll see if I have any mediums left. So we'll see. And then you're saying sorry for not being bigger. That's something to be sorry over. So anyways, guys, thanks for joining. And I'll just keep doing these giveaways until the shirts are all gone. Don't forget to check out the Gently Led Sisters things. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share, all that good stuff. We're almost up to 1,600 subscribers now. So we hit 1,500 not too long ago. So the more subscribers we get, the faster it goes up. So I hope you got a lot from it. And we will see you next week. Miss Sherry will be with us. It is confirmed. So we will see you next week. Bye.